In the vast ocean of intellectual Hegelian scholarship we call modern pop culture, a great debate has coalesced in the minds of highly accredited, sharp-witted, literary and cultural juggernauts.
Yikes. Where are her organs? Ouch, her back must be killing her.
What even is objectification except in the eye of the beholder? What you may find objectifying, someone else may find empowering. One day you'll have someone crying about how Bayonetta is a sexist caricature of women, then about like a decade later, people claim that they've always loved Bayonetta and she's a super empowering girl boss. Unlike those other girls, she's not like the other girls. It's always amused me seeing people so paranoid about not wanting to look gross when enjoying harmless pieces of fiction. Assuming the actors and audiences are consenting adults and there's no acts of predation behind the scenes, there shouldn't be any moral outrage for what goes on in a work of fiction. What people seem to forget is that our desire to procreate is a natural part of the human experience. This extends into our desire to see people we consider attractive. Writers and artists will sometimes showcase what they consider attractive. Think Lara Croft, 2B, or more recently, Eve from Stellar Blade. Keep her in particular in the back of your mind. When you introduce an ideal woman, there will naturally be an unideal woman. I know what I just said probably angered a lot of you in the audience. Regardless of what some might tell you, beauty standards are very much a part of the human experience. Pretty privilege is for sure a real phenomenon, so it would make sense that writers and artists would want to display their notion of ideal beauty. And hey, it's fun to look upon the elegance of attractive women, but not everyone seems to see it this way. You know who I'm referring to. The type of people who make all of their problems your problems. The sort of folk that can't see fiction beyond how insecure it makes them feel. The kind of individual that would accost you for wanting to express your most basic emotions through art. For these fine bunch, the idea of a man, or woman for that matter, having any kind of joy at seeing some tantalizing female character designs throws them into a narcissistic spiral. They project their deep insecurities onto works of fiction, screaming at how unrealistic of a standard someone like Eve from Stellar Blade is. And for those with deep insecurities and low self-worth, this breeds anger. The insecure love to yap on and on and on about how their lack of character is under attack by depictions of fictional cartoon women. They trick themselves into thinking this yapping and whinging is an act of compassion, when in reality it's just a desperate cry for help. If I complain hard enough on the internet, people will realize how problematic beauty standards are, right? If I just cry to HR about Stellar Blade, they'll make the problem go away, right? I don't have a problem, it's the South Korean developers' fault. These whiners project their misery onto all of us, thinking we should be just as sad and insecure as them. They of course fail to realize that people are capable of separating fiction from reality. It's why they spaz out so hard at Eve from Stellar Blade. She's a mirror into their depressing, unfulfilled desires to be loved and attractive.
Stop! Stop!
Look, anyone who has any self-worth would realize that our natural desires are nothing to be ashamed of. They would also realize that they don't need to fit the ideal mold to be attractive. No, Becky, you don't need to have an hourglass figure to be attractive. The Nikkei Genshin Impact waifu is not a personal attack on you, Becky. An old argument you tend to see crop up from time to time is that tantalizing depictions of women will lead to unrealistic expectations on women in real life. Okay, editor Eugene here, I kinda bungled this portion of the video, so I'm gonna make my actual case here. First of all, fiction by definition is unrealistic. If you're crying about something like Lollipop Chainsaw or DOA Beach Volleyball depicting women in an unrealistic manner, I mean, I don't know what to tell you except, I guess, learn to separate fiction from reality. If you're actually insecure about how men will look at you because they enjoy sexy women in fiction, that's not the fault of the author, and we shouldn't blame writers, artists, authors for the ills of the general society. And if there is a case for fiction causing a negative outcome on society, maybe something like the film Jaws causing people to hunt down loads of innocent sharks en masse, that's society's fault for not thinking critically. Again, we can't just blame the author for all of the bad stuff that people in society do. To conclude on the point I wanted to make in my original take, we as individuals need to overcome our faults in spite of what society tells us. Furthermore, if we as audience members are reading into art and coming to bad or ill-conceived conclusions about ourselves or reality as a whole, that's our responsibility to fix. It is not on the artist to fix what is broken about us as people. Don't shoot the messenger. Alright, back to the video. Sexualization is what you make it. There's no shame in simply disliking it because it isn't your cup of tea. It's when you make it a moral issue that you really start to lose me. Speaking of moralizing, I always find it funny when people claim there's a good way to sexualize women as opposed to an icky and bad way of doing it. This has been termed by the internet as safe horny. Like the name suggests, safe horny is when you sexualize a female character according to a prescribed moral code of ethics. Lady D from Resident Evil typically comes to mind. Nothing wrong with the tall vampire lady, of course, but I have a serious problem with the idea she's the good kind of horny. If we lived in a different time period, let's say ruled by uber-mega conservative Christian nationalists, then someone like Marilyn Monroe could be considered safe horny, while Halle Berry could be considered, Yeah, I think you get the point. Safe horny, to put it simply, is simply what's in vogue. There is no moral foundation for safe horny, because it's quite literally whatever the ruling ideology says it is. Trust me, buddy, your goon sesh isn't any more righteous than mine.
I'm staring respectfully at you, my lady.
In conclusion, moralizing about attractive women in fiction is pretty gay.